All right. Despite the Clippers' exit, the Clippers proved some important narratives that was either shut down or proven. So this is the big key narrative what the Clippers showed. The Clippers choked last year. It's because of this man here. This man I'm showing you right now. Doc Rivers. I'm going to just make a statement right now. He's a glorified Jim Boylan. I'm being for real. Yes, I said it. He's a glorified Jim Boylan. Doc Rivers, he gets all the praise. He somehow is like the luckiest coach. So just because he's so called a good coach because he won the 2008 Boston Celtics championship, which contained a super team. Kevin Garnett, one of like the sec. I believe. Well, I was really young, but I can't. But I believe he was the second best power forward in the league, to be right behind Tim Duncan during that time. You got Ray Allen, the greatest shooter of all time, prior to Steph Curry. You got Paul Pierce, who is one of the premier small forwards in the league, probably what top 8 in the league, probably top 10, top 15, whatever. And then you got Rondo, and then I guess he just won he wound up winning a championship. That team should have won at least 2 or 3 championships without much amount of talent, but Doc Rivers just shows that he's an incompetent coach, and the Clippers show that too. Because now, since Doc Rivers was not coaching the Clippers, let's just go back to the Mavs series. If Doc Rivers was coaching the Clippers during the Mavs series, we would we would have definitely had lost. Definitely had lost. He would have made no adjustments. He would have left the lineups the same thing. He would not have, like, showed the talent of Reggie Jackson. He would have just kept Reggie on the bench. Still have Pat Bev guarding Luca, and Luca would have kept cooking Pat Bev. Like, I love Pat Bev, but it's better to start Reggie during that series. And Reggie, and then a lot of people were like, including me in the earlier playoffs, just last month, I gave Ty Lue a lot of criticism about him starting Reggie Jackson, but Ty Lue just opened the doors. He just he just made Reggie who he is today. He showed everyone, especially Clippers fans who doubted him, including me, that Reggie Jackson is like what, a talented player when you start him. So that, because like when Reggie's on the bench, he doesn't get as much shots, and then his confidence is not as high, so he doesn't play good. But when Reggie starts, like, yes, we're gonna give him some crap for his defense. His defense not the best, but when you start him though, he starts scoring pretty good. 15 points a game. He could drop 15, even 20, even 30 sometimes. But Doc, on the other hand, he would have done absolutely nothing. He would not he would have still left Zubac in there, or Doc does not really like playing Zubac, but he's just not gonna do anything. We would have lost. We would have lost. I mean, Clippers would have lost if Doc Rivers was the Clippers coach. And I don't watch too much Philly games, but and I cannot really correct Doc what he should have done in Philadelphia. But I'm sure if I was a Sixers fan, I would have definitely found ways to correct Doc Rivers, because oh my goodness, can you explain a 26-point lead? 26-point lead. You blew that. Doc Rivers blew that. And then Scottie Pippen had a good point. Scottie Pippen said Doc Rivers said Ben Simmons up for failure, like because they always would foul Ben Simmons a lot, and then Ben Simmons would tend to miss the free throws, so that probably contributed as well. Just like how Doc Rivers also said it, Paul George and Kawhi for failure for starting for well, okay, not starting, but he played Montrez heavy minutes despite him of getting cooked, despite him of not being able to contribute to offense at times, and and look what happens. And look what happened. we blew a 3-1 lead because Doc Rivers decided, oh, it's good to overplay Trez to guard Jokic when you could have put Joakim Noah, who is a great defender. Yes, Joakim Noah is still a solid defender. He could grab rebounds and he would have at least, grab boards so Clippers could have got more possessions. And Doc Rivers, he tried to use when Paul George said he was trying to use him as a JJ Redick or blah 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 blah. Like it showed. It shows because Paul George this year he did a lot better than last year, pretty much. So that's so Doug Rivers, you're just a horrible coach. Let's just say that. I mean, make zero adjustments, absolutely no adjustments. Goodness sake, anybody could have won the championship with the roster that Doc Rivers had in the Celtics. Like seriously, I could have won the 08 title if I was in Doc Rivers' place. Kyojin could have done the same thing. Heck, he would have probably won 2 rings, 3 rings. Um, basically anyone, like basically anybody that would coach the 08 Celtics. You don't have to do anything. You just sit there, just wear a suit. Could have won the title. So I don't want to hear that crap that Doc Rivers like he's a champion because that's one of the most easiest road to the title. So yeah, basically basically any average Clippers fan could coach better than Doc Rivers like last season, and I'm sure every average Philly fan could coach better than Doc Rivers this season. Doc Rivers is just a horrible coach. He's just horrible. He just sets player up to failure. Look what he did with Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady, what? Blew a 3-1 lead as well under Doc Rivers. He said Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan for failures too, like pretty much ruining their legacies because no adjustments. Well, they were hurt. I get the benefit of the doubt back then because I was still really young, but now I realize Doc Rivers just makes no adjustments. He makes no adjustments. He pretty much like almost set Kawhi and Paul George for failure, made Kawhi look like a choker, but it was all on Doc Rivers. And also, like, I'm gonna still use this image, but to talk about another narrative though. Montrezl Harrell, and Doc Rivers are both of the reason why the Clippers lost against the Nuggets series. Like, look at Trez right now. He's nowhere to be found. Received 0 minutes because when Trez is on the floor, opponents would end up scoring a lot more often. Want to know why? He's undersized. He's not a he plays his position is a center or power forward, but really he has a size of a small forward or like his defense is just not the best. Montrez he's pretty deceptive the way how he looks. He looks like he's the energy guy. But he's all hustle, which I'll give Trez that he's pretty good at hustling, but he's Trez. He's not fit for an NBA championship team unless you play him limited minutes. Like you play him like a certain type of minutes and stuff. And sure, Trez is good, but when Trez cannot do anything, he's really useless. Really useless. Trez is just. Thank goodness we let Trez walk to the Lakers, so that's a pretty good stuff. So this is like the number one reason. So this is the first narrative that was proven. Doc Rivers and Montrezl Harrell are the key reason why the Clippers lost. Now I'm gonna switch to the second narrative, and the second narrative that got shut down. I would okay. Oh my bad. I'm pretty bad at doing this, but the second narrative that was also proven is Paul George is not of a playoff choker as all the casuals fans would say. Listen, when Kawhi Leonard was out, Paul George led us to beat the number one seed Utah Jazz twice. Oh, don't forget with Mike Conley too, because remember when the haters were trying to use Mike Conley as an asterisk? If the Jazz had Mike Conley, blah blah blah. Well, Paul George just beat them as our first option. Terrence Mann did a lot of work. Reggie Jackson did a lot of work, but that's what players do. Like that's what role players do. They step up. You can at the end of the day, you cannot have one man doing all the work. Fast forward to the U. Fast forward to the Phoenix Suns series. Yes, Paul George had moments that he should have done better, especially the two free throws one. It was bad. It was bad. Paul again, and there was another game when Paul George, he had a bad game with the Phoenix against Game 4, the game that I went to, 5 for 20. He was pretty bad, but again, he did what he could. Especially when we went back to Phoenix, he dropped 41 points. 41 points, y'all. 41 points. Game 1, he did good too. Yes, he was inconsistent in a way. He was pretty inefficient sometimes. But you know what? People want to, like, the great Mamba, Kobe Bryant, that we all mourning. He was 6 for 24 during versus the Celtics, and Game 7. I think it was Game 7 too. It was Game 7 too. And guess what? But what you know what happened? The Lakers still won. So is Kobe a playoff choker? Using the that people want to say, oh, Paul George is a playoff choker. Probably not. Kobe's definitely not a playoff choker. It just sometimes people are just due for the bad games. It's up for the teammates to step up. And last game we were pretty much gassed. Like none of the teammates couldn't really do much. Boogie was a great player. I forgot to mention the last video about the takeaways about the Game 6 Clippers. Clippers need to resign Boogie, in my opinion. So Boogie stepped up. Morris, he had his stroke, but he did pretty well. But Chris Paul just had the night. There's nothing you could do about that. Chris Paul just had his night. He had a whopping 41 points. Like there's not really much the Clippers could have done because obviously because Kawhi didn't play. Had Kawhi played, we would easily won the series. We would have 4-0 the Phoenix Suns easily. Easily, I said yes. And then pretty much. So these are the key narratives that was proven. One was it was Doc Rivers and Montrez was the reason why we lost the series. And Doc Rivers and Montrez Harrell. Well, okay, Doc Rivers is not a good coach. Montrezl Harrell is not truly reliable if you give him big minutes. And my bad if I stutter against. My apologies. Paul George is not a playoff joker, as we all perceive him. Is he inconsistent? Yes, he can always work on it. There's always a next season. We're gonna bounce back, and that'll just pretty much wrap up the video. If y'all wonder what type of content I might try to drop in the future, I may talk about what happened with the Hawks, but it probably won't be as good as the Clippers one because I'm not a fan of either of those teams. So, but I'll just probably give y'all my point of view, and maybe I'll probably do what the Clippers should do in the off season, and when the draft gets close, I might just throw up some prospects that we should probably take. So appreciate everybody for sticking up. So.